All right, 24/7 Sports. Steve Wiltfong here with Kent State head coach Sean Lewis. Sean Lewis, when you got the job at Kent State 3 years ago, you were the youngest coach in college football, and you're still the youngest coach in college football 3 years later. And are you, and maybe the tallest coach in college football? Is that?
Well, the tallest, but I think Kane Womack down at South Alabama, I think he's got me by a few years now. So I'm one of the youngest. I don't know if I'm the youngest anymore. So, but yeah, still young and vibrant staff here, and love being at Kent State. Love being with our crew here.
How about that height, though? Is there any head coaches in college football as tall as you?
I tell you what, I don't know. I mean, there's been. I was surprised a couple of years ago when we went and played Auburn with how tall Gus Malzahn was. I had no idea how tall he was. We were eye to eye with one another.
Do prospects and their families get caught off guard with your height?
I tell you who was really surprised by it was this core of signees that just showed up on campus that we did this Zoom interaction with and everything. That obviously you have no idea how tall I am sitting down. And then they got to campus in the same way that I was happy to see how big and long and fast and strong they were. They were like, "Whoa, coach, you're tall." I'm like, "Yep, just as big as you, bud." You know, so yeah, it's fun. Obviously, a easy talking point.
And for those at home, how tall are you?
Just over 6'6", not quite 6'7".
Gotcha. So for you, you were pleased with the measurables of the kids that you brought in. How did you guys do a good job of evaluating length and height with, I go to a huddle and a kid says he's 6'5", and then I meet him in person, he's 6'2".
Well, I think like everyone, we got a little creative. Our staff did a great job very early on when the landscape shifted and we went to virtual recruiting. And we got real creative in terms of tape measures in doorways, and then kids recording their feet, so, hey, we see your feet on the ground, your heels are down, your toes are up, and going all the way through one continuous loop. So, that there's no fun editing that's going on and things like that. Just those and kids who didn't have tape measures. I mean, we use all different, palm a basketball for me so I can see how big your hand is, and those types of things just to adapt to the landscape and to be able to know and verify as best we could, that they are what they say they were.
Coach, I'm going to love on you for a second here. You guys this year averaged over 600 yards per game on offense. That led college football. You guys were the only team in the nation to average more points per game than Alabama. You averaged nearly 50, 49.8. And you were a balanced attack, running and throwing, number 3 rushing, number 10 throwing, number 2 in passing efficiency. So obviously your offense is very explosive. So where I'm going with this, Coach, is this NCAA transfer portal rule where kids can transfer and not be penalized by having to sit out. Are group of 5 programs, group of 5 coaches worried about more prestigious programs per se coming in and taking your good players?
I know some of my counterparts share that concern or have voiced that concern. I know that's kind of the narrative that is out there right now, that a kid's going to come in, have success at our level, and then elevate and go up. And I'm sure it's natural that that's going to happen. But I look at it, and we've talked a ton about it, especially as we've gotten back this year and continue to move forward as more of this momentum is building, to where for us, it's about serving our kids and how we can give to them with agape love, like truly serving their betterment, using our wisdom, our resources, our experiences to help them. That has really created an environment here that, our kids know that they're going to be best served here, best developed, and they're going to reach the best versions of themselves by staying at Kent State and being committed to Kent State. And I think in turn, the kids are committed to one another. And it's very, very challenging, even though there might be a more prestigious school or a higher school. There's a intimate connection of love to Kent State for our kids. And because of that, a prime example, our quarterback could have very easily grad transferred, Justin Crum, who spearheaded all those numbers in that attack and is the leader of our offensive unit. And that was probably the biggest re-up commitment signee, however you want to put it, that we got this offseason, that he ain't going anywhere. He's not entertaining anything, and he's putting in work here to come back and continue to elevate this program.
Talk about how you and your staff have been able to elevate a program that's annually a loser. To put that into perspective, you guys went 3-1 this year with the shortened schedule, had 2 games canceled. 3 wins, that's more wins than a lot of Kent State teams have had playing 12-game schedules over the history of the program. You guys won 7 last year. You guys probably would have took another step forward this year. So it's unfortunate with the pandemic that you guys weren't able to do that. But just what are you most proud about with what you guys have been able to infuse into this program?
I think it starts with the identity that we came in from day one. And as you alluded to, Steve, that there's this perception or the identity of Kent State football when we came in was that of losing, because that's what it was. You could Google it, you could check it out. I think it was like they had won, Kent State had won 7 out of the last 42 games or something like that before we stepped on campus, and we've won 7 out of our last 8 in the last 2 seasons, right? So from day one, it's been about this core belief or an identity shift inside of us that when you wear this Kent State logo, that whatever people outside of it perceive, we know in ourselves that we're winners. And we can say that, and we believe that, in our behaviors and our habits are winning habits. And so doing that with time and love and repetition and mistakes and learning from those mistakes and growing and improving and performing when all the opportunities come, it just, momentum is built, it's compound. And now outside looking in, the narrative is all this great stuff and we're winners, and you get opportunities to do these great things, and people outside of it are being noticed, or we're getting recognized with a championship trophy or bowl rings. But man, our kids and our staff have done a tremendous job since day one of, in our core of our Flash Fast family, is that we're winners at heart. And so we act the way that winners do. And the byproduct of that is we're now winning football games that everyone else is seeing.
Coach, you grew up in Chicagoland. You attended Wisconsin, where you played quarterback and tight end. What was your dream school growing up?
I was always a Big Ten guy. I had a Michigan flag hanging in my room, and there's a guy by the name of Chad Henne who squashed that dream for me, and he's doing great. Obviously, he's still playing, and I'm coaching, so Michigan made the right decision there. But I was always a Big Ten guy. Came down between Purdue, Iowa, and Wisconsin, and the connection that I had with that staff, the University at Wisconsin, and without that and without them, Coach Alvarez, Coach Christ, and those teammates, you know, to be able to play with guys like Joe Thomas, Jimmy Leonard, Joel Nellis, Brian Calhoun, Owen Daniels, all those guys, you know, they're an integral part of my life experiences and where I'm at today.
I was going to ask you next, but I think you probably answered it in there. But who's the best football player that you've been around as a coach or a player? What made that person special?
Shoot, I mean, Joe Thomas is an elite individual, and we're very fortunate, again, in serving and helping our kids. Joe very graciously donated some time and got on a Zoom call like this with our kids to talk about his journey and his mindset. And I tell you what, he just, what everyone else would say is completely an uncommon or abnormal way of thinking about things. He made that a piece of him and was genetically blessed, but had the work ethic, the drive, the discipline, which to me are all very, very positive things. You know, he was able to shoot. We were talking about it. He played 10,363 consecutive NFL snaps. That is unheard of at the left tackle position. So he's at the top of the mountain of the people that I've been associated with.
What was he like at Wisconsin? I mean, was it?
I mean, he was always genetically different, but he was always so cerebral. You know, he didn't lean on his talents, but he used his talents to the best of his ability by always finding ways to improve, get better. Was a great leader. You know, did it by example, but also was very vocal and held guys to the way that we were supposed to do it. We held guys to the standard. And, you know, that's just, again, what differentiated him and why he had so much tremendous respect for him. And then when you got into the battle on a Saturday or, you know, Saturday evening, Saturday afternoon, you knew he was going to perform. So his actions aligned with his words, and it's very easy to follow those guys.
Now, you started your career at your high school, Richards High, right? In Oakland, Illinois. But then you came up under Coach Dino Babers, and your first job was at Eastern Illinois. Just talk about being there and having Jimmy Garoppolo there in that setting, who played in last year's Super Bowl. We got this year's Super Bowl this year. But what was that like as a young coach? Are you I mean, you're not much older than Jimmy, so.
No, and at the time, it was well, first off, to get that call and to get your first full-time job is something that it's something that you'll always remember. I remember coach always saying like, "Hey, you got the job offer, you got it." Yep. And he's like, "So when are you going to be here?" And I was like, "Monday, like, as fast as possible, tomorrow."
Yesterday.
And yeah, right. So I'm on my way. But I remember getting to Charleston, and obviously coach was coming up from Baylor, and they had just won the Heisman with RG3, and everyone in the community, Jimmy was there. Jimmy had been a 2-year starter and didn't have a ton of success. So people in the community were kind of like, not sure if he's your guy. And I distinctly remember going out to the first spring practice. Quarterbacks are getting loose, and I'm working with the wide receivers at the time, and you kind of just peek over, and he starts spinning it, and he has the quickest release I've ever been around. It's just uncommon, unbelievable, and it's like, that's the guy. We need to get the pieces around him. We need to coach him up, and I mean, what a fun experience to be in Charleston, to where you're doing ball. There's more livestock than people in Charleston, Illinois, and you just immerse yourself in ball and to grow as a young coach and to be a part of the journey with Coach Babers and to have him as a mentor. Again, just very fortunate to have a man of his stature and his character in my corner and someone to lean on.
Talk about your guys' evaluation process so you can make sure guys like Jimmy Garoppolo don't slip through the cracks all the way down to FCS and end up in a place like Kent, Ohio.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it goes back to our core beliefs that in everything that we do, that we want to improve and perform every single day that we do it, that we want to do it together. So we want to execute our jobs with details together as a staff. We're going to combo recruit. We're going to combo identify. And just a simple belief, and this is probably the South Sider in me and the high school coach that has worked his way up, is just the toughness to just go harder, longer. Watch one more kid, make one more call, turn over one more rock to make sure that you're in your primary, secondary, tertiary recruiting areas, you're identifying the right kids, the right genetic traits, the right physical tools for what we do. And almost more importantly than that for us in particular is the character criteria that we have, that we know is going to work in our environment that we've worked so hard to create here at Kent. So identifying that first and foremost takes a ton of time, a ton of effort. It's a labor of love that our staff, led by Steven Schrum, our DPP, does a great job with, and each full-time coach embraces and does an amazing job with. And then once you identify it, that's great. Now we have to really get to know that person and bring them home to Kent and recruit the heck out of them. And that's different for everyone, right? One thing that's important to you, Steve, may be, so down the totem pole for someone else. We can't recruit each kid the same way. That's not a cookie cutter approach, but in terms of our talent criteria, our character criteria, that's very specific, and we adhere to that. And I'm very proud of our staff that if they see a red flag or something pops up, they have the courage to walk away, and they know it's not the right fit for us. And we may have to, battle against that kid at another program for one day out of the year, but he's not in our program 365 days out of the year. And I think maybe that's one thing that differentiates us, that our staff, they do a tremendous job having the courage just to walk away.
Paul Christ was your position coach in college. What's Coach Christ like?
He's awesome. I mean, total ball guy, cares about you. There was that clip that kind of went viral when they played Miami a few years back where he didn't quite cover his lips, and everyone got to see a side of Paul Christ that they usually don't, that we all as players got to see day in and day out. And it's, he's a great man that cares tremendously about his players, and a lot of the stuff that is ingrained in me has been established because of him. So he's one of the best.
Coach Babers, Coach Christ have had big impacts on you. Anyone else that's really influenced you to this point?
I mean, every coach, Coach Alvarez, obviously getting a chance to watch him my first 2 years at the college ranks and to see the way that, he established that program. Coach Ianello, who was the head coach at school down the road when I was a GA there, has influenced me. I was very fortunate, and it's why a big part of how I got into coaching and the influence that my coaches have had a huge impact on my life. It started even at Richards High School with Gary Kerhonen, who is one of the all-time winningest coaches in the history of Illinois. They've been instrumental. And then the coaches that I've been able to come in contact with, the high school coaches, when I've been able to get on the road as a recruiter and even now as a head coach, I tell you what, every high school I go into, whether it was when I was recruiting Central Florida, when we're here in Ohio, when back in Illinois or Jersey, everywhere that I've been as a recruiter, to just sit and talk to some of the elite high school coaches that are in those areas, you can take something from them in a big time way.
I know that the college coaches in the off season like to sometimes share secrets and go visit each other. Has anyone reached out to you about your guys' offense?
We've had a bunch of people. My video guy popped his head in the other day and he's like, I think our offense is the most downloaded offense in all of college football right now. So there's a laundry list of suitors right now that I don't know. We're going back and forth. We're having dialogue about it all right now, but there's plenty of people that are interested in what's going on in Kent, and kudos to our kids and our staff for generating that buzz.
What's the upside to sharing that?
It's like any sort of professional development, to where you go back and forth, and there's some things that, you're willing to share, but you got to put some guidelines on it that this is the secret sauce. It'd be like walking into Frank's Red Hot and asking for the recipe. Like, you're not getting that, but you might get something else out of them, and there's a give and a take. But also, I think the really cool thing about the coaching fraternity and the coaching community is that if you find the right people that are in it for the right reasons to serve kids the way that we are, then giving each other knowledge, that's really, really powerful. And at the end of the day, you're serving the kids. It's not for individual glorification. It's, hey, there's something over there that they have of value that I know is going to help my young men. I have something of value in our offense. And to me, the X's and O's are cool. That's great. But if I can acquire some skill to help serve our kids to be better husbands, better fathers down the road, I'll show you a scheme to get that, so that 40 years from now, kid calls me or he's sending me pictures of his kids and they're graduating college. Like, I can't wait to get to that point in this journey, because I've had kids that I coach at the high school level getting married, having their first newborns, having their, getting their homes. That's really, really cool.
Coach, last thing from me, where does Group of Five programs fit in your opinion, with the college football playoff?
I'm very biased. I think we should have a bigger seat at the table. I think there's really, really good Group of Five programs that can compete with the best of them, and we need a larger say.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy your staycation and the Super Bowl this weekend, and good luck to y'all as you guys continue working for spring ball here.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate us letting me brag about my people here.